Welcome back to the Monday edition of News Talk here on News Channel 8. I'm Bruce DePoy. Coming up for you later this half hour, local marketing expert Dave Marinaccio looks at the best and not so best Super Bowl ads. We'll open up the phone lines to get your thoughts on this as well. But right now, let's get back to our conversation with Tom Frelkeld, editor-in-chief of the DC Pro Sports Report. There was a story leading into Super Bowl 50 that sort of re-energized a conversation already well underway. Ken Stabler, the legendary quarterback of the Oakland Raiders, led them to great success. Yeah. Jake the Snake, he was one of the first lefties to have great success in the modern era of the game. Mm-hmm. And the candid memories that his family expressed about how he deteriorated mentally, physically and mentally toward the end of his life. At one point, he's taking his grandkids, who are about 17, to football, and one of them says, Mom, Pop keeps stopping at green lights. Yeah. So this concern about concussion, this concern about CTE, and frankly, I think where the sport is headed, folks who are feeding at the trough that is the modern-day NFL, unless they're idiots, they've got to be really concerned about the long-term health and future of the sport. They don't want it to end up like boxing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Stabler stories were really heartbreaking. A guy who brought such glamour and excitement to the game, and really one of the defining players of the 1970s, which was a great decade for football. Yeah, look, there was things that were happening during the Super Bowl weeks that I found a bit disturbing. Roger Goodell, of course, was asked about it, and his response, I thought, was really flippant and insulting, where he said, there's dangers in life, there's dangers sitting on the couch. Well, certainly sitting on the couch isn't a healthy lifestyle, but you probably won't suffer traumatic brain injuries from doing it. I thought that was really to be mild, an unfortunate statement. I think a day earlier, Mitch Berger, who's a neurosurgeon, and he's on the Head, Neck, and Spine Committee of the NFL, denied any link between football and CTE and these traumatic brain injuries.
Kind of reminiscent of the Walter Merriman, who was the spokesman for the Tobacco Institute for all those years, saying, no matter how many studies would come out, he'd say, it hasn't been proven.
Yeah, I don't know how a neurosurgeon can say that, except for the fact that there are lawsuits pending, and if you're a defendant in one of those lawsuits, you don't want to state publicly that there is a link. So I presume that's why he said what he said. But, it sounds like something the NFL might have said 10 years ago. Like nothing in the past, 5 or 10 years has really made any impact on them. And that's just not going to fly. The fact is, the concussions were up 58.6% this year in the regular season. 58.6. That's a huge increase. About half of all concussions are from helmet-to-helmet contact. The next highest is contact with the ground. Frequently, it's the artificial turf, which can be as hard as pavement in some places. So, with these numbers going up, they celebrated a slight dip of 10% or so last year. But now with this huge increase, the question is it because they're doing a better job of spotting it and diagnosing it, and players are being more forthcoming about self-diagnosing? Or is it because the players just keep getting bigger and stronger and faster, and there's no way around it the way they play the NFL these days?
And in every aspect of life, it's fascinating how the law of unintended consequences always seems to be lurking. And how does it play out here? When you have helmets that protect you so good, it seems, against skull fracture, the helmet can become a weapon.
That's right.
And so in attempting to protect players from head injury, dating to a time when we didn't fully appreciate the risks of concussions, long-term, what the long-term effects of multiple concussions were.
Sure.
Now you have players thinking, oh, I've got this hard head, I've got this hard thing that I can use to hurt or stop the progress of someone else. That is a problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. This has been going.
And the genie may be out of the bottle, but I think the style of tackling that has become the norm in the NFL, and everything from the NFL trickles down to college and high school and Pee Wee, because kids watch and emulate.
Right.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a long-standing problem. We typically associate it with defensive players leading with their helmets. But the fact is, anyone who's watched some of those old NFL films, you see big running backs like Earl Campbell and Franco Harris deliberately lowering their shoulders and headbutting guys in the chest and knocking them back and picking up extra yards that way. The fact is, for decades, players were taught to lead with their helmet. If you're a big, powerful running back, get your helmet down and put it into the defender. Make him pay for the tackle. And if you're a defender, absolutely. They would say, get your hat in his midsection or get your hat on his head. And, you know, what we saw in the Super Bowl, there was a play where a fumble was caused because a defender got his helmet on the ball, which is a classic. That's a great hit. Exactly what you want to do. But the fact is, you can tell these guys not to do it, and you can create these penalties, ever larger penalties and fines. But the fact is, in the heat of battle, when these guys, they don't have time to think about, am I going to get a fine for this hit? They're going after it, and you know, they've been doing this for years, and they can't all of a sudden turn it off. And unfortunately, we saw some very bad incidents of that in the Cincinnati Bengals game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which knocked one of the best players in the league out of the game for the next week. So this is a continuing problem, and I don't think the NFL has any plans to handle it. They only have a plan to deal with the legal consequences of it, not the long-term cultural consequences.
Great to be able to lean on you, Tom. Tom Farrell, to the DC Pro Sports Report. We're back with more News Talk in